There we go. So it's February the 11th, and today we're going to have a talk from Jindo Steve Given, and Steve's going to talk about right action. Let's see. As I recall, Steve got Jukai from Rosalie Curtis at San Francisco Zen Center, was ordained as a priest by Michael Wenger at Dragon's Leap, and then he completed his Shuso training 2018. And also, Steve was, I think, if I got this right, you were the dean of the East West Acupuncture School in San Francisco, traditional Chinese medicine. And
clinic.
Gotcha. Good. Yeah. So Steve's got a great practice. He's completely devoted to his practice, which is very inspirational to me. And he's agreed to speak to us today about right action because we've been unpacking the Eightfold Path. And I think today is the right action day. Does that all sound right? Welcome, Steve. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. This is not my normal voice. I am grateful that I can speak at all. And I have gratitude that I am not watching the Super Bowl. Finally, a reason to be grateful to not have a TV. Great thanks to Cynthia and Kirk for the opportunity to talk to you this morning. Excuse me, about right action. Great thanks to you all for being here. I know you could have been doing something else. And great thanks to you all for your practice. I'd like to talk about right action this afternoon. And I'm going to begin with a koan from a collection of koan about our women ancestors, the hidden lamp, stories from 25 centuries of awakened women. This is a collection of koans collected by Florence Kaplow and Susan Moon. And each koan has a commentary by a woman teacher. So it's a wonderful book. If you haven't read it, I strongly recommend that you read it. I'm going to start with the 24th koan, excuse me, in this collection, Punika and the Brahmin's Purification. The slave Punika was a follower of the Buddha and attained the first stage of awakening while carrying water from the river to her master's house. Sometime later, she was again bringing water from the river when she saw the Brahmin Udaka Sudika taking a ritual bath. She said to him, "I must come down here to the river even on cold days like today because I'm a water carrier and a slave. But why do you come down to the river even when it makes you shiver with the cold? What are you afraid of?" "You know the laws of karma," he said. "I am washing away my past evil acts." "Who told you that would work?" she asked. "What if this were true? Frogs, turtles, and water snakes would all go to heaven, and evildoers like pork butchers, thieves, and executioners would all be cleansed with a bath. Besides, doesn't water wash away your merit too? It would be better to avoid doing evil in the first place. So spare yourself from this freezing water and go home." The Brahmin saw the truth of her words and tried to give her his robe in gratitude, but she refused. That's okay. Instead, she suggested he should take refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, excuse me, and train in the precepts. He took refuge and said to her, "Your words have washed me clean." There are several ways to consider this koan. If you get a chance, read the reflection by Diane Winston in The Hidden Lamp. I'm going to focus on one aspect. The view I'm going to focus on is that of right action. The slave is telling Yudaka Sudika that he does not need to take a ritual bath to wash away his bad karma, merely do what is good. Right action is part of the Eightfold Path. This path that Punika is pointing to, and part of what Valerie Beer spoke to us about last week, includes right action. In Sanskrit, samyak karmanta, and in Chinese, zhongye. For me, the Chinese is often helpful to understanding the meaning of a Buddhist idea. The character zheng is translated as straight, middle, honest, or pure. Ye is translated as course of study, occupation, or karma. Together, zheng ye can be translated as right course of study, right occupation, or again, karma. The Dictionary of Chinese Buddhist Terms by Soothil and Hodis defines zheng ye as right action, purity of body, avoiding wrong, and the fourth of the Eightfold Path. Excuse me. I think it is also helpful to clarify right action by looking at the Sanskrit term samyak karmanta. This Sanskrit word includes the term karma. Karma is also part of the Chinese character ye. The consequences of our actions result from right action, as well as other choices that we make, including the choice that the Brahmin Yudaka Sudika made. Buswell and Lopez translates the Sanskrit samyak karmanta as correct ends of action or correct action. Right action leads to right consequences, correct results. Excuse me again. We must be careful here. Karma is not the same as a ledger for our actions. In popular culture and in the mind of Sudaka Sudika, karma is often spoken of as an accounting of whether we are naughty or nice. Karma is not so simple. While in Buddhism we talk a lot about karma, the results of our actions, it is too simplistic to see karma as simply accounting for our behavior. Karma is the result of our actions, and as a concept is neither good nor bad. What we do will impact everything. Yet, as stated in the Lankavatara Sutra, quote, "But karma isn't real. Thus, to make their minds let go of what grasps and what is grasped, I liken it to waves. Their body, possessions, and the world. This is what they are conscious of. This is how their karma appears, just like surging waves," end quote. As described by Ben Connolly in Inside Vasubandhu's Yogacara, a wonderful book, by the way. Quote, "Karma is the cause of the appearance of body, possessions, and the world, and the totality of what we are conscious of, including what grasps, the sense of self-experiencing things, and what is grasped. All the things. Karma is like waves, sometimes terrifying, sometimes beautiful. Sometimes we drift and wish it would never end, and sometimes we're near drowning. It seems so real. It's not just that what we experience is illusory. What this body of teaching says causes experience, the aleya, abode or dwelling, is also not real. It can't be because this teaching is of an imaginary nature too. We're imagining it right now. Karma isn't real. It's just a word, a way of looking at things to help us be free of grasping, end quote. The image of karma as a wave works well here. Waves are in water. Water can form waves. The wave and the medium water cannot be separated. A wave is energy changing or a disturbance in the water. Our actions change the medium of our lives, our existence, in fact, all existence. We cannot separate our actions from existence, nor can we describe actions separate from us, our lives. How we live, what we do day to day is part of our life, manifests in our life, and changes our life. Our karma manifests in what we experience. In this sense, the actions and the actor are united. We are not separate from karma, yet we are more than karmic consequences. What is right action? This concept appeared early in Buddhist writing. From the Maha Katarasaka Sutta, an early Buddhist text, quote, the Buddha said, and what bhikkhus is right action? Right action, I say, is twofold. There is right action that is affected by taints, partaking of merit, ripening in the acquisitions, and there is right action that is noble, taintless, supermundane, a factor of the path. And what bhikkhus is right action that is affected by taints, partaking of merit, ripening in the acquisitions, abstinence from killing a living beings, abstinence from taking what is not given, abstinence from misconduct in sensual pleasures. This is right action that is affected by taints. And what bhikkhus is the right action that is noble, taintless, supra-mundane, a factor of the path. The desisting from the three kinds of bodily misconduct, the abstaining, refraining, abstinence from them in one whose mind is noble, whose mind is taintless, who possesses the noble path and is developing the noble path. This is right action that is noble, a factor of the path. One makes an effort to abandon wrong action and to enter upon right action. This is one's right effort. Mindfully, one abandons wrong action. Mindfully, one enters upon and dwells in right action. This is one's right mindfulness. Thus, these three states run and circle around right action. That is, right view, right effort, and right mindfulness, end quote. I think that an important point is made at the end of this quote. Note that right action includes right view, right effort, and right mindfulness, all part of the Eightfold Path. There are several concepts that contribute to our understanding of right action. First is that we are all interconnected. Each of us is connected to all others. This is represented by the image of Indra's net, an infinite web with jewels at each intersection. We are each a jewel reflecting the light of all others. Each of us impacts all other living beings, human and non-human. When I act, my actions impact all people, and in fact, all life and the world as a whole. This is not directional. When I strive to be compassionate and reduce negative consequences in the world, this is an action. When I'm selfish and treat others, human and non-human, without compassion, without considering the impact of my actions, this is also an action. Each action impacts all others. Each action has consequences. Nothing each of us does is in isolation, even over Zoom, by the way. We are able to choose consequences by altering our actions, but we cannot avoid impacting the world. This is inevitable. This is karma. When I traveled to Imeshan, a holy Taoist mountain in Sichuan, China, I saw places where legend taught that hermits lived and practiced. Hermits living in caves impacts us all. What we do impacts everyone and everything, including hermits living in caves. Each action impacts not only other people, but the environment, both living and non-living. When I drive rather than taking public transportation or walking, this impacts me and all others, including other living beings and the environment. There's no escape. We are all in this together. This can be clearly understood by a quote from Ehe Dogen in the Shobogenzo, the fascicle Sanjigo, Karma, in the three periods. Dogen states, the world honored one said, effects of an action will never perish, even after 101,000 eons. One receives the results when the causes and conditions meet. Know that dark actions bring forth dark results. Bright actions bring forth bright results. Mixed actions bring forth varied results. So refrain from taking dark and mixed actions and endeavor to take bright actions. The assembly of those who heard the Buddha's discourse accepted it with joy and trust. As the world honored one says, once wholesome or unwholesome actions are created, they will not perish even after 100, 1,000, or 10,000 eons. One receives the results when causes and conditions meet. However, unwholesome actions disappear or turn to lighter results by repentance. Wholesome actions increase by rejoicing. This is called never perish. It is not that they do not have effects, end quote. This idea is no more clear than with global warming. Humans as a species have made choices, some knowingly, some unknowingly. These choices have contributed to an increase in warming gases in the atmosphere, including carbon dioxide and methane, which in turn have elevated the global temperature. These changes increase storm intensity, cause higher ambient temperatures, and other repercussions that have negatively impacted lives all over the world. These choices have negatively impacted people, as well as other living things. We have certainly seen this in the storms that are currently ravaging Central and Southern California. We can also further understand the impact of right action by the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path can be divided into three types of practice: prajna, wisdom, sila, ethical discipline, and samadhi, meditative training. Right action is part of ethical discipline, sila, along with right speech and right livelihood. Sila encompasses our actions, what we do, and how it impacts others. How do we understand right action? One way is to see right action as the avoidance of improper action as defined by the grave precepts, including not killing, not stealing, and avoiding sexual misconduct. We have an intuitive understanding of this, seeing right action only as avoiding improper action, however, is very limited. This is not a complete picture of right action. Right action is also doing what is compassionate and supports all living beings. We are more than the avoidance of negative actions. We are able to choose to live with compassion for all, supporting all living things. We see this call to right action early in Buddhist teachings in the Pali Canon from the Metta Sutta, a text in the Sutanapita Sutta. Quote, let no one deceive another nor despise any being in any state. Let none by anger or hatred which harm to another. Even as a mother at the risk of her life watches over and protects her only child, so with a boundless mind should we cherish all living things, suffusing love over the entire world, above, below, and all around. End quote. Living by right action can seem overwhelming. How do we live to protect all beings when we need food from living sources and need to function in a society that demands utilization of resources that will inevitably impact each of us and the world as a whole? I think this is especially true for us in the United States, with a pervading mythology of individualism and the perceived right to land and resources that were taken from First Nations peoples. We use more oil in the United States than the next three highest consuming nations combined. I went to graduate school in Montana State University in the heart of the region of the US that sees itself as the home of the rugged individualist. This delusion is expensive, resulting in a high suicide rate. I lived approximately 60 miles from the Montana-Wyoming border. Wyoming and Montana have the highest suicide rates in the US, 32 per 100,000 people. This is one consequence of living in isolation, unwilling to consider our interconnectedness, economically, ecologically, or emotionally. How do we know what is right action? While on first consideration, it should be obvious what right action is, if we look at all actions carefully, it's often not so clear. Another koan from the collection The Hidden Lamp illustrates this. Quote, one day, Layman Pang and his daughter Ling Zhao were out selling bamboo baskets. Coming down off a bridge, the layman stumbled and fell. When Ling Zhao saw this, she ran to her father's side and threw herself to the ground. What are you doing? Cried the layman. I saw you fall, so I'm helping, cried Ling Zhao. Luckily, no one was looking, remarked the layman. End quote. In her commentary on this case, Joan Sutherland, a Zen teacher and the founder of Awakened Life in Santa Fe, New Mexico, states, quote, Ling Zhao and her father were inseparable, supporting the family by making and selling bamboo utensils. Later, she accompanied him on his pilgrimages. Once, when the layman tripped, Ling Zhao threw herself on the ground next to him. She explained herself with the immortal words, I saw you fall, so I'm helping. Ling Zhao's actions obliterate the idea that there is a helper and helped. Compassion isn't a commodity we deliver, but a commitment, according to Chan Zen, to help liberate the intimacy already inherent in any situation. Layman Pang's final remark does not mean he's worried about some third person judging the event. The one who's fortunately isn't looking is ourselves. That is, our inner tendency to monitor and pass judgment, distancing ourselves from our interactions, even as they are happening. End quote. I don't believe there's an arbitrary and rigid standard regarding what constitutes right action. If this were so, our task here today would be very simple. We would know in any situation what constitutes right action. In fact, we live in a complex world where our actions can be appropriate today and perhaps less appropriate another day. How do we judge? How do we know what right action is in any situation? Here today, in a single Dharma talk, I don't think such a clear statement is possible. We can say what would most likely lead us to right action, lead us to understand right action. If we act from compassion, from an understanding of our interconnectedness, endeavoring to support all beings, then we have the beginning of our answer. We know what right action is when we have prepared ourselves through Zazen, understanding Dharma, and being open to our relationships in Sangha. There's a koan in the koan collection, the Bian Lu, the Blue Cliff record, that helps here. Quote, a monk asked young men, what is the teaching of a lifetime? Young men said, an appropriate statement. In his commentary on this koan, Matthew Juksen Sullivan states, quote, his, Buddha's Dharma, is a way of alleviating suffering, both your own and those around you. However, the Dharma does not prescribe only one cure. Just as a good doctor treats the patient who stands before her, rather than diagnosing everyone with her preferred disease. Quote. This then is our task. How do we moment to moment know what right action is? And how do we best conform to the dictates of the precepts in all situations? Through mindfulness, right concentration, and right effort, we train our minds to be open to what is needed, to Yunmen's appropriate statement. When we embrace right aspiration and right understanding, then we will perceive what our action must be. In a wonderful Dharma talk to Selwood Soto Zen, Koshin Steve Tierney spoke of acting for myself and acting for others. I wholeheartedly agree. Ultimately, if we live mindfully, with compassion and correct intention to do the right action, then we will know right action in each situation. Alas, speaking for myself, I am human, and I am day to day still learning about right action. I'm not naive. Perhaps only in the future, perhaps even in another lifetime, will I truly be able to always know what the right action is in each moment. For now, by living with compassion, striving to benefit all beings, and sitting Zazen, I will strive to do no harm, to do the right thing. Perhaps then I will have an appropriate statement. Right effort and right action are intertwined. We must act with our best intention and the effort to bring that intention to fruition. Thank you so much.
Steve, thank you. It's beautiful. Let's sit for a couple minutes.
Want to stop the recording?
Oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah.